Alright, it's Eva Gnostiquette again, and it's raining right now, so I'm under a tree, and there's not much that can stop me from recording, so... Here's the thing. I want to talk about reactionaries. And I'll start by saying that ContraPoints, you should check out their channel, they're really good, made a really good point about reactionaries. Specifically in their video, What the Alt-Right Fears, they pointed out that the biggest fear of the alt-right is sort of a fear of death, but extrapolated to culture itself, to the macro level. So, take from that what you will. They feel like they feel like globalization has robbed them of their identities, that they were denied, they're being denied their place in the world. And by this really extends to all reactionaries. It extends to white nationalists. It extends... Sorry for adjusting the camera. It extends to white nationalists. It extends to men's rights activists, etc. Any sort of reactionary, they all share this same kind of mindset, where they kind of want to freeze things as they are, sort of embalm the culture, embalm the current conditions. It's sort of like a Freudian death drive, the drive to be mummified, almost. So, it's important to understand this drive when talking about modern politics, because currently the Republican Party is essentially no longer truly a conservative party, as in the traditionally conservative sense, that is maintaining the status quo, limiting the amount of being cautious about adventurism in economics and society, etc. But it is now essentially a reactionary party. Not only do they want to be cautious about expanding welfare programs, for instance, they want to, as I mentioned in my last vlog, their new budget wants to completely gut Social Security and all these other beneficial programs. They want a strong military in order to defend this culture. You see, one of the things about reactionary ideology, and especially fascism, because this is becoming more and more fascist by the day. The thing about it is that you have a strong military. I think Angela Nagel said this. You have a strong military that exists to protect the culture, but the culture is entirely reoriented toward the military. So the culture is oriented toward the military, and the military is oriented toward defending this culture of military. So it's a self-eating cycle, like an Ouroboros. And we're seeing that more and more. So this is how... So this whole death drive, the whole drive toward militarization, the drive toward embalming culture as it is, the drive toward creating social castes, as economists have predicted. We're no longer seeing a class system, we're seeing it evolve into a caste system. That's the key to understanding reactionary politics. So there's this. There have been a whole bunch of free speech marches that actually have nothing to do with free speech. I am 100% for free speech, by the way. Let me make that clear. I believe that short of incitement or shouting fire in a crowded theater, you have the right to free speech. I believe that you have the right to shout theater in a crowded fire, as Abby Hoffman put it. But these free speech rallies are actually largely about defending reactionary ideology. Now, reactionary ideology is... It's odd that they're hosting free speech rallies in the name of protecting reactionary ideology, given that reactionary ideology has never actually been suppressed that much, unless you're like overtly neo-Nazi, that is. But more organic American forms of fascism wrapped in the flag and carrying a cross, those forms of reactionary ideology in America have never actually been suppressed. So these free speech rallies are more aimed at shifting the Overton window toward reaction, which is what... And you see, you have people like Jeremy Christian, the Portland stabber, attending these free speech rallies. He was big on anti-Antifa and whatnot. There's one going on in Portland, same city that he stabbed two brave heroes, and same city at which he had previously attended two free speech rallies. So you have this reactionary ideology breeding people like Jeremy Christian. And how do you combat that reactionary ideology? You have to form an actual critique of reactionary ideology. And the thing is that the reactionary ideology is basically an extreme form of the prevailing ideology. It is the status quo ante, in a sense. It wants to go back to the way things were in the good times, which of course never existed. So you need to form a critique of that in order to fight it. You have to, and in order to fight this reactionary ideology masquerading as free speech advocacy, I think that the left needs to reorient itself toward showing itself to be the side for free speech. The reactionaries are saying that their speech is being suppressed. You need to critique that, counter that narrative, saying, no, it's actually left speech that's being suppressed. It's Bernie Sanders who got such little time on television. It's Malcolm X, who's a controversial figure even today. You can't even discuss Martin Luther King's actual views. We lionize him, we celebrate him, we have a day dedicated to him, but we can't discuss the fact that he was a democratic socialist. The left needs to point that out and reorient itself against the free speech jokes, and more toward we are the actual defenders of free speech. Point out the free speech fights of the unions, point out the free speech movement at Berkeley in the 60s. And that is how the left can combat reactionary ideology successfully. Peace, love, and light.